In this video, yet again, I'm roasting my subscribers' Framer sites, and I'm not only doing that, but also going into each of the project files and fixing a few small mistakes. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video to get all the tips and tricks, so you're not making the same mistakes. My name is Nandi, this is Framer University, and let's get started. So as you can see here, we have our first Framer site that we are covering. I'm going to leave a link for each of the sites that I'm reviewing down in the description. So if you want to take a look at them, you can just go there and click those links. But yeah, the first site is a little personal site. Overall, it looks pretty cool. However, I noticed a little mistake on the bottom part of the website. So as you can see, when I start hovering over this copy email type of interaction, you start seeing some weird glitching and like flashing and some weird behavior here. Basically, you might not know what is going on here, but the issue is really simple and it's really easy to fix it. The problem is that we have this component here, which has a hover state. Yeah, this is the hover state, a little copy email tooltip appears, and that's basically it. The problem is that when I hover over this copy email, the hover state is getting triggered. However, there's an area here, for example, that is not triggering the hover state, and also this copy email is moving from the bottom to the top, and that's why in some cases, in specific cursor positions, we can get into this like weird like glitching back and forth between the hover and the default state. So usually what we do to prevent this from happening is we just simply set the pointer events of this tooltip to none, and you're going to see that it will fix it. We'll no longer be able to trigger the hover state just by hovering over the copy email. The hover state will only be visible when we hover over this text right here. So let's jump into the project file and do that really quickly. So as you can see, here I am. I'm going to just scroll down here and let me click within this footer, and as you can see, this is the button contact component here. And you can see that, as I said, it has a little like tooltip here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and edit it on the primary variant, because what I want to do is add this pointer event style to all the variants. So if I were to edit it just here on this first like variant hover, then it would be only added to that variant. So it's always best if we go to the primary, select the overlay, it's called overlay here, not tooltip. And then on the right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to styles, and pointer events will be set to none. So now I'm going to go back and preview the site, and hopefully it is going to look better. So as you can see, I can hover over here, but as I move my cursor here towards the bottom, it no longer triggers the hover state, which is pretty good. Let's also open it in my browser just to see. If we zoom in here, you can see that, yeah, it no longer glitches, it no longer has some, weird behavior. I can no longer hover over the tooltip to trigger the hover state. And yeah, it's a much cleaner, much better experience this way. Okay, so this is the next site that we are visiting. It's called It's Net. And yeah, I'm going to just scroll down here, and I think the problem here, as you can see, as we like open this navigation down, this menu, and we scroll on the page, it's scrolling in the background, but it shouldn't really happen. And also when I start scrolling down, as this navigation is animated to the top, you can see it's now here. I scroll a little and it moves to the top. Because of that movement, it like shows a little like gap on the bottom of the screen, which I hadn't even noticed when I first looked at this site. And I noted down some things, so that's something that we also have to take a look into. And yeah, basically that's it. We have to make sure that we cannot scroll when we open the navigation or this menu, and we also have to make sure that when this navigation is animated to the top as we scroll down, a little gap here on the bottom is not revealed. So let's jump into the Framer project and quickly take a look at this menu navigation thing. So it's a navbar component here. To make sure that when we open it down, the scroll is no longer available on the site, we can use the stop scroll component or scroll stopper from Framer University. So I'm going to go to framer.university/resources. I'm going to search for scroll stopper, and I can just copy this component here in the top right and then paste it into this default primary variant of the component. So Command V. As you can see now, this stop scroll is here in the left layers panel. I could just move. Oh, I just noticed it already has the stop scroll. So okay, so I'm gonna just delete what I had now. It's absolute position as it should be. It's an invisible component that just adds, the stop scroll effect to the component. Seems like the creator have not been setting this up correctly. So stop scroll should be set to block scroll no on the right panel here in the default, because in this state of the component, we still want to scroll the page. But when we open it down here in desktop open, the stop scroll should be set to block scroll yes, and it is block scroll yes. However, when we open it down, it still scrolls the site. So in this case, we can take a look at the component if it can be updated. So as you can see, the smooth scroll has an update, so I will update that component. Maybe there were some issues with like the stop scroll being used with the smooth scroll. So let's see if now it works. And yeah, as you can see now, as I close this, I can scroll, but as soon as I open this down, I can no longer scroll. So this is also actually a great tip. I thought that they are not using the sub scroll. Seems like they were using it, but they weren't on the most up-to-date version. Make sure when you're using components from Framer University or from other, places, regularly go to the assets panel and take a look and see if some of these components can be updated. You can see that, for example, ticker, carousel, slideshow components are all up to date now because I updated them, but those updates were available and you were not using the latest version of these components. So yeah, again, make sure when you see these updates or something isn't working as expected, just make sure to update these so you're getting the latest version, so these fixes are alive on your component. Now there is another thing that we wanted to look at, which is no longer really a thing, because when we opened this down and we were scrolling, a little gap started appearing on the page, as you can see. But this is no longer irrelevant for us because we can no longer scroll when we open this down. So this gap will no longer be revealed. So I'm not even going to take a look at that because that is also kind of fixed by just fixing the stop scroll. So yeah, we can move into the next site. So here we are on the next website. It's called Arch, and if we scroll down, you can see it's a pretty nice website with some animations, but on the bottom we're going to see this FAQ, and it has a small issue. So as far as I can tell, it's set up correctly. These text layers are not selectable. Usually these are selectable, and I'm like, why is it not user select none? But yeah, it's set up correctly here. However, you can see that how I'm clicking these accordions and these other accordions are nicely animated and moved away as these open down. However, take a look at this news section. As I'm clicking these to open and close them, that news section is just jumping instantly, and it's really ugly. It doesn't look too good. So how can we make sure that that element is also nicely animated as it is getting pushed away because of the opened accordions? So this was a thing that was a little bit hard to fix up until today, because what we had to do is we had to go within the project and then we had to wrap all elements within a component that we wanted to animate. So for example, now we have this component accordions, so everything that is within the accordions component will be nicely animated. That's why when we open this down, for example, this below will nicely get pushed away with the little animation. You can see that it's nicely moving up and down. However, the news section, you can see, it's not within the same component as the accordion. And we don't really want to mess around with wrapping all of these sections in one component, because then I would have to select both of these sections, add the stack, and then turn the stack into a component. I'm just going to quickly do it now. But this is not a great solution. Of course, now it's going to be animated. You can see the news is moving down as well with an animation. But then this whole thing is a component, it's hard to like make it responsive, and it's not good. But I have created a new solution which is much better. So basically what you need to do is you need to go to the Framer.University website and search for the layout jump preventer component. Here it is. Again, we're just copying it in the top right corner and then going back to the project. We select the component that animates its height. So for example, this accordion will change its height depending on the number of opened accordions. As you can see now, it has, let's say, a height of 600 pixels. As I click this and open it down, now it's getting a little bit bigger, maybe 650 or 700 pixels in height, and that's why this here is moved away. So, and instantly. And so the thing that we have to do is we have to go within this component that is animating the height and then paste the component here, Command and V. Now you can see that we have the layout jump preventer component on the left layers panel. I could just move it here on the top level. So we want to have it on the primary variant of the component, and we don't want to nest it down within the variant itself. We're just going to keep it here. We're going to set it on the top right to absolute positioning. It's again an invisible component, just adds the like effect or the updated behavior that we are looking for. And here on the right panel, we can set the direction. So we either use it in vertical mode, horizontal, or both. In this case, we are animating the height, so we need a vertical mode. We'll also take a look at an example which uses horizontal, but now vertical should be fine. So now if I take a look at this and I scroll down, you can see that if I open these, the news section and all of these images and everything that is below is also animating nicely. So we have this instead of this. You see the difference? It's much better. These are small details. I usually talk about these small details, but I think when someone looks at your site and they see that, oh, when you open the accordion down, it's nicely animated, there's no weird jumping, they can, appreciate these small details. And so moving on to our next site, I want to show you the horizontal mode of this layout jump preventer. I actually haven't tried it, so hopefully it's gonna work, because what I noticed here on this page is that when I hover over this remix this template button, you can see how this gets pushed away instantly, because the width of this button is animated because it gets a little arrow here. And yeah, the way Framer animates things, everything else will just be jumping away instantly. In this case though, it might be also easy to fix it by just turning these buttons wrapper into components so that both of these buttons are in the same component. We can also try that just so you can see that indeed with this simple change, both of these buttons are nicely animated. So the learn more is not jumping away to the right instantly, but it's nicely getting pushed away with a nice transition. If it's now a component, then it's instant. But let's see if we can paste the layout jump preventer component within this. Actually, I have no idea if I can do that because now this is not a component. So I think it doesn't really make sense this way, but let's see. Yeah, now it just disappeared. Okay, so I think it doesn't work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go within this button here and I will find the primary. This is the white. So I'm gonna paste the layout jump preventer here. I'm gonna set it to absolute, and I'll set the direction to horizontal. So now in theory, we have placed the layout jump preventer into the component that animates its width. In the previous case, it was animating the height. That's why we're using the layout jump preventer in horizontal mode. Now this here, this component is animating the width. That's why we are using the layout jump preventer in horizontal mode. And hopefully now it's animated nicely. And yeah, indeed, as you can see, as I hover over this button, this learn more is nicely pushed away in an animated way, and it's not like ugly instant jumping. And yeah, as you can see, it might be a little bit of a simpler solution. You don't have to create these unnecessary wrapper components where like these two buttons are wrapped in a component just to make sure that they're animated. You just grab the layout implementer, put it within the element, the component that's animating either the width or the height of the component, and then everything else that is getting pushed away will nicely be animated. So here we are on our next website. I think it's a personal site of, I'm not sure if it's Juan Cruz, maybe, hopefully, I don't know. If I scroll down here, there is a small error with these images. As you can see, as I hover over these cards, the images within are getting a little skewed. So they're not only scaling up, but if I like maybe just zoom in a little bit, if I'm like hovering really fast back and forth, you can see that it's like jumping, and it's because of the image is getting skewed. And no, we don't really want to have this. We just want to scale the image up without any skewing, without any weird jumping. I think the previous things or the previous items within this or tips within this video were also about these small like weird glitches, jumps and things. We want to make sure when we are building these sites that they are nice and smooth, no glitches, no flashing, no jumping, everything is nice and smooth to have a nice professional feel. So how do we fix this? We go within the project. Let me go here and I'm gonna scroll down. These are the components, and what we're gonna see here, I already know, I've seen it many times. The frame that has the image fill is probably changing its aspect ratio as it's getting scaled up. And probably it's also not using the scale property, but we're gonna see that. So here is, it's a little interesting. So we have this variant. Within we have this frame called step, and that has the image. Maybe I'm gonna just rename it to image so it's a little bit easier to understand that, yeah, that's an image. Okay, so on the primary, this image is set to 520 width, height is fill, and it's locked in terms of aspect ratio. Here on this part, yes. Now here you can see that the height is still fill, the aspect ratio is still locked, but the width is different. As you can see, it's larger. So basically it means that we have switched the aspect ratio. Here we had 1FR to 520, and here we have 1FR to 560, different aspect ratios. So to do something that looks pretty similar and doesn't have this jumping, we can just simply have a different structure. So what I will probably do is I will deselect this lock. I will make it fill up the available space here. So I'll just try to make sure that it fills up the available space. It doesn't have this like border around or like padding. So I'm gonna remove the padding here. So now we have this starting state, and I can then apply a transform scale on the right to scale it back down a little bit, maybe 0.95 or something like that. And then of course, we don't want to have the border on the bottom or the padding on the bottom. We just had it on the left, top and right. To achieve that, we can add an origin to make sure that the scale effect originates from the bottom center by moving this origin point to 100% on the y-axis. Now you can see it's pretty good. You know, a small detail that will not be exactly how it is on the original is the fact that we're not going to have equal padding around, which is, you know, not really good, but I guess, you know, we have to make these compromises if we want to make something that is smooth. So yeah, this is good, scale 0.95, and here on this state, I can actually just remove it and add it again. Here on the hover, we just set the scale to 1. So now it's scaled up. Let's take a look at this. As you can see now, it's super smooth. It doesn't have that jumping. It's just a completely different experience. And I know it doesn't have the same padding around, which, you know, also actually might be something that I could fix if I'm thinking about it a little bit more. But for now, I think, yeah, maybe you can just adjust this variant to have, so maybe I can deselect the lock. Yeah, so maybe you can change the width and height in a way that you get the same padding around. So now you can see, for example, if you were used to use this size, then it would be kind of equal. So this is something that you can consider. But yeah, generally, when you're scaling images, I think the takeaway or the tip and trick from this specific website is that whenever you're scaling an image with like hover interactions and stuff like that, make sure that you're not changing the aspect ratio of the image. Because if you do that, even if it's just a small aspect ratio switch, you can see that this little jumping, glitching will happen, and it's just not something that you want to have on your site. So now you can see it no longer has the glitching, everything nicely scales up without any weird jumping behaviors. Okay, so we are on the next website. It's called Drime. And if we scroll down here, there's a section where we can click these little tabs, and the image is changing on the right. Now what you will notice is that as I click one of these tabs and the image switches here, there's a little flash. Again, a small thing, I know, but there is a little flash. Just notice that. You see that? I hope that you see it. But yeah, and it usually only happens, not always, but yeah, kind of always. Yeah, it's flashing. It's because you are just switching between these images, and yeah, you're just changing the visibility of one image to no, the other one to yes. I haven't seen the project yet, so I'm just guessing. But yeah, you're changing the visibility of the images, so each and every time I click one of these tabs, that image has to like load again. So it's not there on the page, it has to like, come onto the page. And so the solution will be setting opacities and changing opacities instead of the visible property of these images. So let's go and take a look at how it's structured. Again, I'm not sure, but I think the visible property is changed and exactly that is happening. So there is a little stack here on the left layers panel, you can see it. And we have these image frames within, and you can see that now only one image is visible, this bottom one. And if I come here, now the second image from the bottom is visible. Here, the third image, and then here, the first image. So to fix this, what we need to do is we need to select the primary, and then here I'll select all of the images and make them visible. Now you'll see that all of them are relatively positioned, so they are all taking up space. So now this whole thing is like a mess. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set 3 out of 4 of these images to absolute positioning. Perfect. I'll center them by pressing Option H and V after selecting each. So Option H and V on all of them. So now all of them are centered, and I'll just kind of have to make sure that they all have the same size. It's kind of not the best setup here because this image here is set to width fixed. It probably should be width fill, and then 400 for the height, that's okay. So we can set the spins to 0 and the height to 400 to achieve the same behavior. So on all of these absolute positioned images, left and right pins to 0. This essentially mimics the fill width property, and then deselect the lock, and then 400 for the height. So now what I just wanted to achieve is to have all of these images right on top of each other. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just hide the ones that we don't need by setting their opacity to 0. So on all of these 3 absolute position images, we're going to set opacity to 0. So now we're going to only see the one on the bottom, this little pink one. And then here, we're just going to have to start messing around with these opacities. And also I have to override the visible properties back to yes because they were hidden here previously. So this will take a little time here, but we're going to speed up this part of the video. Okay, so now it's kind of ready. I don't really understand, to be honest, why we have desktop 5 when we have 4 images only, but for now we're gonna keep it there. And now what we're gonna see, because of the opacity change, is a little like fade effect as we switch between these. So you can see that it's much smoother. Now we don't have that flashing, but we have a fade effect. And that might not be something that you actually need on your site. So if you still want to have instant switch between these images, similar to how it felt here without like the flashing. What we can do is we can set this to instant here. So the primary variant of this component to instant transition, and hopefully now it is going to be an instant transition between the images. And yeah, as you can see, it's switching instantly. And if you pay close attention, it no longer has that flashing. So if I play this is how it looks here. If I play this is how it looks here. You can see there is a small white flashing as I switch between the images, and here there is no flashing. And also, in my opinion, that little like fade effect is actually pretty pleasant, so we might actually want to keep that. So yeah, that's how we can improve this website. Okay, so here we are on our last website, and the issue right here is that we have this custom cursor, which is okay. I'm not a huge fan of custom cursors, to be honest. I prefer having my normal cursor. However, okay, you're using custom cursor, but at least make sure that you are using it properly. The small issue that we have here with this is that you can see that, for example, when I start or want to hover over these projects, you can see how like the cursor is already touching the projects here. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit so you can better see what is going on. Let me just try to zoom in on the top. So you can see that the tip of the cursor is already touching the project, but we are not hovering yet. I have to come here this much to hover over, which is not really cool. To be honest, it's not a great experience. So to fix this, we can do a couple of things. My first idea is to just increase the touch target of this component, basically any component that is hoverable. But I also want to take a look at the custom cursor that is being used. So let's take a look at this layout template. As you can see here, custom cursor is applied. Basically, I think, yeah, the easiest way to fix this will be to make sure that these elements have bigger touch targets, so I don't have to hover in too much in order to actually get the hover state. So the way we achieve that is by, oh yeah, well, this is just a link. That's why it has a super small touch target. So usually what I do is I don't use simple text layers with links when I want to do these navigation items, because then first of all we have this link style, we have to mess around with that, and yeah, it's just not great. So what I usually do is I remove the link from the text. I wrap the text in a stack, so you can see now projects is within a stack. We'll call this menu item, and here the great thing about this is I can change the height to maybe fill container, and then of course I have to remove the top and bottom padding, and then to make it a little bit bigger we can set the menu item to an even larger size, so maybe 32 pixels, and I can start increasing this size until I get to that size that we had. So 48 pixels. So now we have defined the touch target of our element, which is going to be this large image. So I can turn this into a component. I can assign the link here on the top right, create a variable for it. I can also create a variable for the content. So I'll be able to, rename this link if I want to, and also add the different links here. I don't know where it was linked, sorry. But yeah, now it should be okay. Let's also add the hover state. So now we are not linking from the text layer, so we don't have the link style where we define the hover state, so we have to do it within the component. I can just drop the opacity here a little bit, and so when I hover, we see that. So let's take a look at this. As you can see, as I start hovering over, perfect. You can see bigger touch target, and now it's a little bit bigger or better of an experience. So let's compare the projects with all the other links. So projects, dedicated component, much better. I don't even have to hover over with the tip of my cursor over the text, and it's already hovering, which is really good. This is what we need. This is what we want. People are not like super accurate with their cursors, so we want to have, and we want to give them a little bit more touch targets, so it's easier for them to click certain elements. So you can see this is what we have here. And on the about, you can see I have to hover more, and here I have the hover state, and this is where I can actually click the element. Here I'm clicking, nothing really happens. I can just select the text, which shouldn't be selectable, but that's another story. Here I can already click it here. Much better. So yeah, that's it for this video. I really do hope that it was helpful and that you got some valuable tips and tricks out of this video. Let me know in the comments if your site was featured, and let me know if these tips were helpful for you. Also, let me know if I should do more of these roast sessions. So this is actually the 5th time I'm doing something like this. So yeah, let me know if this is something you want to see more of. Also check out Framer University for those useful components. The ones that I used in this video will be down in the description, which is the stop scroll and the layout jump preventer. But yeah, check out Framer University because it has a bunch of other resources, components, and yeah, cool stuff. So yeah. And yeah, like this video, subscribe for more, and I'm going to see you in the next one.